Hello and welcome back to the Happy Running Podcast. My name's Drew. Today I'm going to talk about how you can run your first 5K. Usually people call that a couch to 5K, but whether you have running experience or you have none whatsoever, there are a few things you can do to make sure that you're ready to run a 5K, and I'm going to give you a time frame of about 2 to 3 months. The first thing you're going to want to do is get an activity tracker, something like a watch that will give you your heart rate readings, and then also it'll give you an idea of different intensity zones to work within. Without that activity tracker, it's going to be a lot more challenging for you to figure out how to polarize your training between your easy and your harder efforts. So pick up a watch. We live in a world now where technology is everywhere and it's very affordable. So I think it's pretty reasonable to say an activity tracker is a must. If you're just using your phone, you're not going to get data that will give you an idea of the intensities that you're training within. So the first thing you want to consider once you have that piece of technology is how long can you sustain low activity or low intensity activity. If you haven't run before, you have no history of running, then making sure that you can walk for at least an hour without any issues would be a great place to start. If you can walk for an hour already and that's very easy for you, maybe you're ready to start running here and there. So if you're more of a walker, you can have most of your days be walk days, and you can designate at least 1 to 2 rest days. I'd consider that active rest. So very low intensity walking would suffice. I wouldn't recommend sitting on the couch for a rest day just because that doesn't do your body any good. You want to have active rest as you go along. Then maybe 1 to 2 of those days during the week, you can buffer those with 2 days of easy, low intensity, then a hard day, and then another 2 days of easy, low intensity to recover from that hard day before you go into another hard day. So those hard days, they could be intervals between walk, run. Maybe it's 30 seconds on, 1 minute off, 30 seconds on, 1 minute off. And you want to make sure that you're warmed up. So if that means that you're walking for about 15 minutes beforehand, or if you're already a runner, you can do a slow jog for about 15 minutes and then start with 30-second intervals. If you want to go 1 minute intervals, you can do that too. But for most people, 20 to 30 seconds is more than enough if you're not a well-trained runner. By doing those intervals, you can start really short and then only a few of them, and then that's going to be your hard day. Then you walk to cool down. As you progress along your journey over, let's say within the range of about 3 months, week 1, you might only have 1 harder session. Week 2, maybe you have 2 harder sessions, but the intensity and the length of that intensity, so if it's 30-second intervals, those are both 30-second interval days. That's going to stay the same. Then if you keep increasing, make sure you're not increasing the amount of different intervals that you're doing and the length of those intervals at the same time. You want to make sure you only increase by 1 stimulus or stressor. So if the volume is going to be that stimulus and that stressor, then you're going to increase the volume. So that means volume means more intervals at that 30-second length. Same intensity. If you're going to increase the stressor or the intensity as the stressor, then you can keep those 30-second intervals, but maybe you're going to run them a little harder. And that might be something where if you're doing a walk run, you might be walk jogging off and on. And then once you get to the 3rd, 4th week, that walk jog seems a lot easier. Then you're going to be doing a walk moderate run. And then you could increase to walk high intensity run. And I think that most people will get a lot out of going from walking to a really high intensity jog interval. The runners who are already have a history of running, they're going to get a really big stimulus from doing sprint intervals. And that's going to raise your ceiling of what you're capable of doing. So that's the way you'd want to structure those easy to work days. So 2 days easy, 1 day work, 2 days easy, 1 day work, and you could just repeat that over time. You also want to give yourself at least one day on the weekend where you have a drawn out longer session. And that longer session may be a long run. So if you're already a runner, you could jog really slow for, let's say, at least an hour. If you're a walker, that long walk on the weekend, maybe you walk for 2 hours. You just see how long you can go. I wouldn't suggest for someone who's only walking doing a longer session where they're, let's say it's a long 2 hour walk, and then you throw in some jog intervals. That would be too much. So make sure you're focusing on building your endurance over that long session. And things like, things like body composition are going to come into play, your nutrition, how much activity you generally do will come into play. So if you're walking around all the time, you walk to work, you walk home, you walk the dog, then that long walk is not going to be a big deal. So I'd recommend figuring out during the week, how can you jog during the week as much as possible? And then on that long walk on the weekend, maybe you're walking through the hills or something to make it a little bit harder of a walk, or you could make it a really, really, really slow jog for an hour to an hour and a half or so. Build up over time. Make sure that those intensities that you're working within are reasonable based on your current capabilities. And that 2 to 3 month zone, or 2 to 3 month range, I think is more than enough for someone to get trained well enough to run a 5K. But if you're going truly from couch to 5K, you just want to be careful in having the right shoes, having the right nutrition, focusing on your body composition. If you are someone who's a little bit more overweight, you're going to have more trouble being on your feet for that long and putting more impact into your steps as you learn how to run versus someone who is, skinny and lighter on their feet. There's going to be less impact and less stress. So you want to consider those things. You want to do it sensibly, because you can get to a place where you can really perform well, but you want to do it the right way so that you don't hurt yourself and you stay healthy and you get healthier in the best way possible. Giving yourself enough time for that till you get to that 5K. Again, focusing on your nutrition, your hydration. If you could lift weights and just build some strength over time, that would be huge. And that would give you more of an ability to run as you progress along your journey. So there's some basic tips on how to structure a couch to 5K or a very, very inexperienced runner to 5K. If you've got any other questions or want advice on something, drop a comment either below on YouTube or on Spotify and reach out to me. Let me know. Appreciate you tuning in. This was a quick one. Good luck out there. Happy running.